things, but yesterday the President of the United States posted on his own website an image taken from an American bomber as it slaughtered 35 Yemenis males who were lining up for dinner to commemorate the end of Ramadan. It just showed them being evaporated. And the President of the United States posted that with glee and said, see what our brave soldiers have done. It's reprehensible. Anyway, Pepe is going to get into all of that.
Matter of fact, just before we went on the air, I looked. They just killed another 8 people in Yemen, and another 22 in Gaza. And where's the outrage?
That's exactly what I was going to say. The slaughter is so commonplace that it no longer outrages. The number is at least 55,000. That's just human beings who've been buried in Gaza. That doesn't even come near the number of bodies that haven't been discovered yet from the rubble. And Trump is in the same position as Joe Biden. If Joe Biden was a war criminal, then Donald Trump is, because they both are financing this slaughter, and they know it's slaughter. In fact, Trump himself admitted that it's slaughter and devastation. Of course, he has a different view of it. He wants to turn it into Trump International on the Riviera, Trump Riviera on the Mediterranean, whatever you want to call it. But he admits that it's slaughter.
You know, I did a podcast on this about all these celebrities, and that's a bullshit word, celebrities. Take it easy. I'm a celebrity. You're an actor. You're playing somebody who isn't you. I gotta look up to this crap. Anyway, I had all these articles in the Trends Journal as it was happening when the COVID war was going on. If you don't get that jab, you're responsible for killing people. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
One after another. Dolly Parton, that other clown guy. I forgot his name. This jerk over here. What's his name? Van Zandt. One after another. You don't get that jab, you're responsible for killing people. Hey, where are all you celebrities about the people that are being killed?
Right.
Not a peep.
That's very interesting, Gerald. I haven't heard a single celebrity, I'm doing air quotes, on either side of the spectrum, the few that are conservative, the many that are liberal. I haven't heard anybody in Hollywood condemning the slaughter in Gaza. Not a peep.
Not a peep.
I know that the
arrogant pieces of shit. I've had enough of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all the View. I got the quotes in that with that clown ladies over there. How terrible it is that you don't get that COVID jab. You are threatening the lives of other people. But they all got lockjaw now. Not a word.
Yes.
Not a word. And
we thought those days were very dark when the government was saying, wear masks, stay 6 feet away from people, take the mask off when you're eating because the COVID knows not to spread when you're eating, all that nonsense. In some respects, it's just as bad now, the authoritarianism that is coming, Gerald. I am really, really fearful for the President of the United States of America to suggest, as he did on Air Force One on Sunday night, that American citizens could be deported, for his press secretary to say, we're looking into a way to see if this is legal. We don't know if it's legal or not. A, is terrifying. B, betrays such a profound ignorance of first principles to which he is sworn. He is sworn to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and to enforce federal law. Before we came on air, I was telling you about an American lawyer on vacation with his family flying back to Detroit, where they live, and stopped at the Detroit International Airport and held up by Border Patrol for 2 hours, refusing to surrender his phone because, quote, we know you represent Palestinians. And eventually they backed down and let him go. But that type of intimidation, that type of chilling was actually under arrest. And arrest is defined as you're not free to leave, is profoundly un-American, utterly unconstitutional, and I'm sorry to say is coming.
Look, here is the cover of this week's Trends Journal talking about the lawyer that got arrested. All right?
Wow.
You hate Israeli genocide? You're an anti-Semite. Heil America will put you in jail. Okay?
You were prescient when you and your team crafted that article. Absolutely prescient, Gerald, and I commend you for it, not because you're my friend, but because you are expressing a view and conveying a message that the American public needs to know about. These are very, very dangerous times, and he's only been in office 3 months.
Yep.
He's got 3 years and 9 months to go. Now, the Supreme Court does strange things. 2 days ago, when they overruled a federal judge who had enjoined the deportation of these Venezuelan people, they also said everybody you're going to deport is entitled to a hearing. I don't know if the government realizes what that means. They have 350,000 people they want to deport. They can't hold a hearing for all 350,000. So sometimes the court, in a low way beneath the surface, does the right things. Other times, the court is as afraid of the executive branch as the Congress is.
You know, you have an article coming out, and it's just more of our loss of freedom and how this country is becoming a dictatorship. And by the way, I sent you an article. I don't know if you saw it. It was in The Guardian from Abigail Disney, who was one of the heirs of the Disney fortune. And she comes out against Trump, saying basically what a spoiled little boy he is and how he grew up. He's basically nothing more than a daddy's boy, and how arrogant he's been all his life. And it's so true. This guy, again, you and I, we're who we are because we're blessed in the parents we came from, but mommy and daddy didn't give us any money to be who we are. And Trump is just a spoiled, rotten kid. And she goes on to say how he's been that all his life. And you have this article that's coming out tomorrow, Tariffs and the Constitution. Again, you're not taking a side on the tariffs. You're making a statement about what's going on with the tariffs. And you go on to say, in 1977, Congress enacted the International Economic Emergency Power Act. The law permitted the president to impose tariffs on goods emanating from outside the United States in the case of an economic emergency. The statute defined an emergency as a sudden and unexpected event that adversely affects U.S. national security or economic prosperity. And you go on to say that Trump is using this thing about fentanyl as an emergency.
Well, originally they were going to use fentanyl as the emergency, and then Peter Navarro and his other advisors said, well, look, you want to impose tariffs on the whole world. We only know about fentanyl from Mexico and a little tiny bit from Canada. You better find another basis for the emergency. So the new basis for the emergency in this executive order imposing the tariffs is the imbalance of trade. That's a sudden and unexpected event. We've had an imbalance of trade since 1934.
Yeah.
You can't make this up. No emergency. He doesn't have the authority to impose the tariffs. What is Congress doing about it? Thomas Massie is introducing legislation to negate the emergency. Rand Paul introduced legislation which passed in the Senate to negate the emergency. The Christian nationalists that run the Republican House of Representatives won't allow Massie's legislation to come to the floor for a vote because they're afraid it'll pass.
Well, you go on to say no emergency No emergency means there is no lawful basis for Trump's imposition of the tariffs. There is also no constitutional basis for the statute. The Constitution reposes the power to tax exclusively into the hands of Congress. So now I want to make this clear. You keep talking about Congress, Congress, Congress. Congress is a bunch of gutless little clown boys and girls. They'll bow down to what Trump wants them to do.
They will also bow down to the military-industrial complex and to the Zionist donors who give to the campaigns of about 90% of them.
Yep. And look what just happened. What was it, last week? Bernie Sanders tried to pass a bill that prohibited the United States from sending, another $9 billion worth of deadly weapons to keep slaughtering Palestinians. And it got rejected by the Senate by a vote of 85 that rejected it, 15 supported it.
That's where we are today. I end my column by saying Jefferson complained about taxation without representation, but Congress doesn't represent us.
No.
It represents its donors and its benefactors. Same with the president. He's making a decision on the basis of what Mrs. Adelson wants him to do.
Yep. Here, you right over here. Matter of fact, this is exactly what my comment. You said the Constitution, I just said, the framers are also determined to keep that power there, that they even required in the Constitution that all taxes emanate in the House of Representatives. And here's my quote after that I wrote. I said, they don't represent us. There's no House of Representatives.
I'm sorry to say you're right. I'm sorry to say that government schools teach the sort of goody two-shoes version of this, that the House of Representatives truly represents the American people, and it doesn't. I disagreed with almost everything Senator John McCain said, but he was right about the corrupting influence of money in politics. So the House of Representatives, the Senate, and depending upon who the president is, the president himself, are just motivated by who's going to be their benefactors, whether it's the donor class or the military-industrial complex. What would happen if Trump tried to shut down the manufacturing of some particular piece of military equipment? Well, whoever the congressperson is and senators from wherever that thing is manufactured would cry a bloody murder, and their colleagues in the Congress would join them because they wouldn't want it to happen to them either.
That's right.
I'm sure you were as aggravated as I was when my former colleague at Fox, a very handsome clown, now masquerading as Secretary of Defense, boasted he's about to have $1 trillion budget and he can't wait to start spending it.
I know. Judge, the Netanyahu is here came on Monday, and the word is out that Trump put him in his place and he's not going to attack Iran or ramp up that war. And
do you disagree with that?
Yep. I think it's all a facade. I think they're making it look like that.
I thought about that. The two British publications, the BBC itself, which is really the British government, and The Economist, both said the same thing, that Netanyahu was forlorn and defeated when he left. But tell me your theory about what happened at that lunch.
I think they're in total agreement on what to do, and they put that on as an act to make it look like America's trying to do everything they can to negotiate with the Iranians. What we do in the Trends Journal is we cover the world. So, for example, this is what the Western media is reporting. You said the BBC and the others. we go to Press TV, IRNA, ISNA, Tehran Times. You want to hear what the Iranians are saying. And the Iranians are saying that this is basically a fraud, that they're just saying these kind of things, but Trump will do everything he can to, quote, stop Iran's nuclear development. And Iran's saying we only have nuclear for power plants, etc. We're not making weapons.
The American Intelligence Assessment, which was published a month ago, concludes unanimously that Iran has not been working on a nuclear weapon since 2003.
Yep.
So what the hell are Trump and Netanyahu talking about other than lying to the public? Netanyahu is in very, very bad shape at home. Trump is shooting himself in the foot with the tariffs. We may have a disagreement on the economic effect of the tariffs, but right now they're very unpopular. Now, I fear the Celente rule. When all else fails, they take you to war. Donald, Bibi.
Yep. And like you said, look how Trump bragged at that terrible thing of those people standing in a circle, those Yemenis, and saying how proud
about something like that.
This is demonic. And it's in front of everybody's eyes. And again, there's hardly any protest. We're doing all we can to stop it, but there's so few of us. The billionaires don't care. The quote celebrities don't care. I have to write about this stuff every day. It breaks my heart. Could you imagine? Could you imagine being a Palestinian, your house destroyed, your whole neighborhood's bombed and all these Israeli troops around you, and you're living in a tent and they're bombing the tents as well, and you're starving to death. Your children are, again, they showed these photos of all these little kids with their hands and arms blown off. Where is the outrage? Isn't any. But anyway, going back to this thing, I believe they're going to ramp up this war. You mentioned about Netanyahu. We've been saying this now for months. The problems, the troubles he's in, the things that he's doing, and he just keeps ramping up the wars. They're bombing Syria. They're bombing Lebanon. They're stealing more land in Syria. They're stealing more land in Lebanon. And they're stealing more land in Gaza. We're calling it a buffer zone.
He has been indicted for war crimes by the International Criminal Court. And yet the countries that say they will arrest him if he goes there allowed him to fly over their airspace.
Yep.
It's hard for me to believe that the evil in this world will be brought to justice in this world. It's just hard for me to believe it.
Me too. I only see things getting worse. To me, I got to tell you, I've been at this a lot of years. People don't give a damn about facts. When I was a young guy just starting to learn stuff and I get upset, but why is this happening? And my father, may he rest in peace, he said to me, son, take it easy. People have little minds. The average person doesn't know what's going on. They know about the sports, Taylor Swift. They don't know about the facts. To me, the only way that could change what's going on is a renaissance. We have to bring back the human spirit at a higher level.
Yes. You have been talking about this for almost as long as we've been friends, and the situation is far worse now than it was at the outset of our friendship. But you're right, Gerald. You're right.
We need to lift the human spirit to a higher level. And it just keeps going down and down and down. The way people dress, the way they look, the way they act. We have to raise that level of the human spirit. And you can't do it without money. The Medicis made it happen. Yeah. And it has to happen as I see it. Anyway, everybody, please go to Judging Freedom. We're in a critical time of our lives. If we go to war against Iran, it's the beginning of the end of life on earth. As everybody knows, there's a thing called the Samson option. If Israel feels that they're losing, they're going nuclear. SAMSON, look it up. And by the way, the Iranians yesterday said, oh, they are condemning us for having nuclear power plants, but Israel could have nuclear weapons. That's okay. We're not allowed to defend ourselves, but Israel can.
Welcome to the Zionist Western world.
Yep. Judge, thanks a lot. Thanks for being on, and thanks for all that you do.
Oh, God love you, Gerald. Always a pleasure. All my best.